Good evening. This is Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Susana Segat.
And I'm Robert Winters. And we are continuing our half hour with our guest, Vice Mayor
Dennis Benzan.
Yeah, this is our tradition. We tell people to introduce themselves.
Oh.
It's a weird thing, I know, but
Yeah,
somehow it became part of us.
I know, and I broke the rules last week, and Susanna just
It was
totally
weird.
chewed me out.
It was weird.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming here. We're really
thank-
happy to have you.
thank
We
you
think
for having me.
you have a perspective of what happens on the council that's very unique, and so we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Right. And we'll certainly touch upon some more of the things happening on the council, but just want to toss in a couple of sort of quick updates. We did a few at the very beginning of the last half hour. I'll say a couple of more quick ones. One is that, well, let me just sort of throw this right here. There is a vacancy on the Affirmative Action Advisory Committee, and if you have any interest in serving on that, you should apply to the city manager no later than Friday, April 25th. If you want to nominate somebody for outstanding city employee, and there are a lot of outstanding city employees to choose from, you can contact the Personnel Department or Mary Ellen Cavallo in the city manager's office by this Friday, April 11th, to nominate your favorite city employee.
Outstanding,
Outstanding.
not favorite.
That's right. And many other things I could say about here too, but I'll say that the city council will not be meeting for the next 2 weeks, but when they do meet on Monday, April 28th, in addition to the regular council meeting, it'll also be the kicking off the budget season. So there'll be the budget overview, and then that'll be followed by on Thursday, May 8th, starting at 9 a.m. in the morning, as well as Thursday, May 15th, 9 a.m. in the morning. There'll be the FY, what are we up to? FY 15 budget discussions. So all the city departments will parade through. This will be your first big budget season.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and there's also the school department budget will be discussed on Wednesday, May 21st at 6 p.m. That's the only evening meeting, and the other ones are all-day meetings. For those of you who want to get a little civic education, I'd actually recommend it if you have a little time to come by. It's actually, you can learn a lot. Actually, in fact, I'll even say that once upon a time, candidate for city council before he was a candidate, Brian Murphy, I said, Brian, if you really want to really learn some of the ins and outs, you should go to the budget hearings. And damned if he didn't go to all the budget hearings. So
Now, where are they?
they're all at City Hall in the Sullivan Chamber. They're not always very, very well attended by the citizenry, but the thing is that all of the people, so major players with all the city departments all come through, and it's sort of a good time to sort of connect with them. The other thing that I wanted to say, but one particular exciting piece of news that's actually coming up April 23rd is the long-awaited opening of a new food outlet and a groceries and food outlet in Central Square. It's a Korean chain called H Mart, and it's set to open on, I don't know what day of the week it is, but it's April 23rd.
That's right.
Is that right? Yeah. So that's actually pretty exciting.
It's 9:30 in the morning, I believe.
9:30 in the morning. I heard the only thing I saw was they said there's some sort of free gifts. So that's not an incentive, but I think it should be a very popular place.
Well, it's an enormous store. I had the opportunity to tour the store last week.
Well, you went to this one?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
And
see, now you got to be careful when you say enormous, because people were concerned about, it's going to be like the big H Mart in Burlington. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to be pouring. And I've been assured it's nothing like that, but it's a good sized store.
So where is it? Where it used
it's
to
in
be
the
there?
old Harvest Co-op
Okay.
location, and it's we're gonna have, I guess, go-go curry. There'll be a bakery, sushi, fresh fish market, meat
Wow.
market, a lot of ice cream. There's like an entire freezer dedicated to ice cream. And I last week, as I walked in there, I'm thinking more like a public elected official, right? So I'm saying I'm seeing jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of jobs.
I
right?
hope so. I
And
really do hope so.
what I did last week is I sent them a letter, and I asked them to hold a job fair for Cambridge residents, in their
Good.
store. So I'm hoping that they will put
they
something
haven't
together
hired
next
yet?
week. They haven't completed all their hiring. They're going to bring a lot of folks from other stores to begin to get the store up and running.
Makes sense, yeah.
And But you know, my hope is that they'll begin to hire a lot of the local residents. But also, you know, I proposed a couple of other initiatives. One would be a collection box at the various cash registers. So for example, if you buy something that costs 50 cents and you give them $1 and you don't want your change back, put it in this box, and the box will be dedicated to for scholarships for local residents, hopefully through HRI, but also the food that's left over and the food that is due to expire. What are they going to do with all that food? So hopefully they'll donate that food to the local pantries.
A lot of markets do. It's sort of just part of their natural system.
So, so you know, it's an exciting opportunity for Center Square. I think it's one of the new places. We need more places, you know, like this in the square. As we think about the development.
Yeah, just ordinary places where people can buy ordinary stuff. It's not all going to be banks and.
Although it sounds pretty
stores.
fancy.
Right.
I think to me, it's somewhere closer to like the Super 88 type of store where it's a lot of just good basic stuff and hopefully at reasonable prices. At least that's kind of the way I've heard it described it. That's an exciting thing in an environment where supermarkets are pretty much leaving urban areas to actually get something to some degree replace the old. Yeah, we used to have the Purity Supreme in Central Square. We've lost a lot of the places. We lost the Stop and Shop, used to be down Memorial Drive. So it's a pretty exciting thing to actually get, you know, basic goods type stores.
We do need some Goya. I did tell them that you have to have Goya products.
Absolutely.
You have to have Goya products. But also, you know, as we think about the development of the square, I mean, I know the seniors that live in and around Center Square have expressed some concerns about the need for more grocery stores and places where they can buy, you know, housewares and other items and
Places
even
you can
clothing
walk
items,
to.
you know, so you can walk to. So
Yeah, we've lost places like the was it the Friendly Family Center, which just had ordinary housewares, and that closed up not so long ago. You know, so we lose those sorts of places. That's a pretty tragic event. So.
Well, that's good news.
yes,
pretty
yes. So I'm looking forward to it, and you know, hopefully we'll, you know, that store sits on a very important block, which I consider almost the heartbeat of Central Square, which is owned by Morris Nagar. So it's my hope that at some point in the near future we're going to see some more development on that site. Hopefully the creation of a plaza where it's a combination of, you know, some food retail, affordable retail, housing, and you know, a place where you can take your family, you can sit down, you can meet your neighbors, and you know, have a cup of coffee together. Because we really don't have places like that in Center Square, or even in our city. You know, as
Very few places in the city.
You know, when I travel around the country, I don't travel a whole lot, but when I do, I look for those types of spaces, public spaces where people can meet, and you know, it's important. We need more of that.
Yeah, I really hope something happens there. In the meantime, it's interesting, you know, again, with my sort of cynical view that we're getting nothing but, you know, phone stores and high-end restaurants, whatever. In addition to getting a place where you can buy noodles, at the corner store where the old Blockbuster was, the next occupant of that space will be a Petco store. So you can actually go and have your dog groomed and do things like that.
I do understand that there's a demolition clause in their lease.
That's
so that's an anticipation of hopefully
there may be some things happening down the road. So you want to lease up the space, but you don't want to. If I'm Morris Nagar, I don't want to necessarily preclude the possibility of doing something magnificent. You know,
and it may require us to have to go up a little bit in height so that we could. You know, create more housing, and that's one of the contentious issues
right now. That's a one-story building in the middle of a major square, a block away from public transit. You know, honestly, to have a one-story building there are just ridiculous. So anyway, I'm looking forward to something happening. We'll see how that goes. Just touching upon a few other things in your exciting first term as a city councilor.
Exciting 3 months.
Exciting 3 months, yeah.
Busy at work.
Actually, let me ask you first, just sort of a general question. As you look forward as a candidate or after your election to being a city councilor and said, I think this is what I'm going to be in for, what has been different about the actual experience once you're on the job compared to what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, that's what we want to know.
Well, that's a great question. So the biggest request that I've received has been for jobs. I get numerous calls on a daily basis. Residents looking for work, work
Is that
within the
normal?
city.
Does that happen to other counselors too?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it does. You know, I was warned that it would happen a lot to me, and I think
Because you talked about jobs?
because I talked about job, but also because you know, I grew up in the city, and there's a constituency in our city that, you know, has a difficult time finding work,
Right.
and so you know, what I try to the challenge is that it takes time to create jobs and create opportunities, and so getting your constituents to be a little patient is a bit of a challenge, and you know, I try to focus on the big picture. One of my early initiatives was to have a citywide job fair for Cambridge residents only that hopefully will happen in the fall. It was voted on by the council and supported by the city's administration.
Actually, the city manager sounded very enthusiastic and thought this was a great thing to
Right.
engage in.
I mean, you know, think about the possibilities. I mean, you pick a large venue, you invite at least the 25 top employers in our city and other companies, startups, and nonprofits to one place. You do massive advertising, and you invite our residents to go there to meet and discover these companies that are in our city, and hopefully make the connections necessary to find work, whether it's, you know, service industry, security, cafeteria, high tech, learning about entrepreneurship. So, you know, it could be a great opportunity for our city on an annual basis. Hopefully it's something that will happen annually. You know, it's really is an exciting opportunity. And
So has this happened already?
it has not happened. Hopefully will happen in the fall. So
There's a
fall.
fair amount of planning that goes into
No,
doing
no, I
it
know,
right.
but just so
Yeah.
people are aware.
Yeah, no, it's coming, and I think it's a great thing.
That's
I
wonderful.
think one of the most difficult things must be that some people probably come in and figure, oh, you're an elected official, you know, you've got sort of ins with the government, so sure you can get me on the payroll somewhere. But it don't work that way.
Right. And also, I mean,
And
you
it
know,
shouldn't work that
and it
way.
shouldn't
and
work
it
that
shouldn't
way.
work that way. And you know, the Department of Public Works has reduced its workforce from, you know, over 1,000 to now, you know, just a couple
Well, I don't think it was
hundred.
ever 1,000, was it?
At some point in the 90s, I believe it was.
No,
yeah.
I don't think it was that big. I think it was more like in the, you know, 200-300-ish sort of range. But the thing is, they used to run like 15 Packer trucks, you know, just for the rubbish collection. That went down to, I think, 9 or 8 or 7 or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So a lot of the laborer positions have vanished.
Right, they have vanished, and a lot of times, you know, residents look to the city to provide employment. And what I try to do is shift that focus to Kendall Square.
Yeah.
Because there are thousands of jobs in Kendall Square. If you look at the number of people, commuters that get off the train in Kendall Square coming in from Boston and go into these buildings, and they work as concierges and they work in, you know, security and high tech, you know, you're talking about a huge number of jobs. And, you know, if folks in, for example, in Area 4, I mean, if 50 residents get jobs, that's a huge impact on our economy, a local economy. So, you know, just a couple hundred jobs could make a tremendous impact on, you know,
Right.
poverty rates in our city.
Yep.
I mean, we talk a lot now about, you know, poverty, closing the inequality gap, closing the achievement gap. Well, you know, this is what we're going to have to do. So it's a holistic approach to, you know, dealing with a lot of the issues in our city, because obviously, you know, the housing, we need to create more, but we also need to make sure the families are working and the families are getting a good education.
I think there's one big disconnect there, though, is that there's certainly any kind of like unskilled, semi-skilled jobs that are associated with Kendall Square. The first choice should be going to local residents. It just makes sense for 1,000 reasons, and it borders on inexcusable that if it's not the case already. But then there's the plum jobs, the choice jobs, the high-paying jobs. There's the disconnect, because, you know, without a direct pathway so people can get the mathematics and science education, whatever, you know, getting the local folks, you could sort of get them into the positions like that really requires a tremendous educational investment.
Well, you're a math professor, so you know how important this issue is. I mean, one of the issues that we discussed at the roundtable with the school department was the need to make sure that our kids are completing algebra by the 8th grade, because that's when you begin the math college prep sequence, so that you can get into an MIT. And you know, I understand that this year we have 3 students from Cambridge and Gelatin that are going to MIT. I think it's the first time in many years, if not the first time. that has ever happened.
That's great news.
You know, I hope that we can multiply that number by 10. And you know, that's going to take a huge emphasis by a city to engage our kids and even our adults.
Got to get them excited about science and mathematics. It's not just a matter of saying, you know, we're going to make sure we're going to get you through here by, you know, you may hate it. Well, no, you really have to get them excited so that they want to be going into those lines.
Well, I had an interesting meeting last week. Speaking of, you know, STEM related programs. So I talked to this, met with this organization where kids design sneakers, and they fabricate their own sneakers, and it involves a lot of math, and involves science, and even physics. And so, could you imagine, which is actually going to be a policy where I'm going to be bringing before the council, where you have kids setting up a push cart, and you walk to that push cart, and you can say, hey, I want a sneaker to look like this. The kids design it, and they send it off to have it fabricated, and you come back to the push cart maybe 1 or 2 months later, and you pick up your sneakers.
You know, I'm sort of a PF Flyers, kids sneakers kind of guy myself, but when I look and see some of the fancy footwear some of these kids, this could be a tremendous growth opportunity.
That sounds
Well,
great.
I remember one day, about a month ago, I was walking by Expressions on my way to take my son to the YMCA to play basketball, and there was a line from the corner of Pearl Street on Mass Ave all the way down to like the Dunkin' Donuts and even further. My son says, "Wow, all these kids out here." He says, "Well, they're waiting to buy Jordans."
There you go.
And the Jordans are
Some had just come out.
Yeah, they just come out.
Yeah.
So, you know, you talk about how do you create excitement for these types of careers. Well, it starts there. You know, kids love sneakers, right? So if they could design and make their own sneakers, and you know, that's a great way of teaching them.
The truth is,
And that's the reason, if I may add, that STEM should move to STEAM.
Right.
Because the design work and the artistic work is important
Absolutely.
to include to the physics and
Yeah.
to the math.
well, and it's also a hook, you know, it's a way of keeping people's interest, getting them hooked, you know, because if you don't get kids hooked on, you know, technology, science, mathematics at an early age, it's just not going to happen down the road, you know, and then it costs a lot more to sort of correct the deficiencies down the road than if you just get them excited and move in the right direction as early as possible. So I think that's a great thing.
What a great idea.
Getting MIT to maybe expand some type of robotics program, just geared for Cambridge kids. You know,
It's
chess
funny,
programs.
I have to tell you, my office mate, John Pope, he actually works in some of the programs, but he works with robotics with local area high school kids, some Cambridge kids, some Boston kids, whatever. There's one time, it was like a year ago, I think I came into my office and I went to open up a file cabinet to see, you know, just to sort of pull out a paper, whatever, and they were robot. It was a robot in there. Then I said, well, let me open up another drawer, and there's another robot. And it was like every drawer I opened, there were robots. I felt I'd been attacked by robots.
Is that good or bad?
I think it was a good thing, actually. You know, kind of flipped me out a little bit, but you know, we worked it out. So. Well, we could go in a lot of different directions here, but I'm going to just ask one thing. I mentioned this earlier, I found kind of intriguing. This has nothing to do with STEAM or STEM or robots, but at the city council meeting last night, which by the way was very exciting.
That was a great meeting last night.
Well, actually, the highlight for many of us was when the police department came in with the bomb-sniffing dog. The dog's name was Kevin, and Kevin was wonderful.
Kevin's a great dog.
Kevin's a great dog. And it was interesting because some people are thinking, oh, we're going to turn into a police state with bomb-sniffing dog. But the truth is, they're only doing that when there's some call for a suspicious package or some sort. Otherwise, the handlers will be basically walking around town with the dogs, interacting with the public, and I think it's something people are going to really like a lot.
Right, and it's also, you know, it's very therapeutic.
Yes.
You know, we have, you know, generally, right around spring and early summer, you see spikes in, you know, violence, youth violence around our city. And we are now going to have an opportunity to have 5 bomb-sniffing dogs with handlers that grew up in our city and now police officers.
That's right, every one of them were.
And, you know, they can enter and walk through our parks and talk to our kids and have the kids, you know, pat the dog and, you know, create a friendly environment. You know, what I'm finding is, you know, there are a number of officers that have been hired by the police department that are lateral hires, and so they're not
That
folks that are
means
from
they
our
came
city.
from another city, yeah.
And so, you know, what I'm finding in my own neighborhood is that I don't know many of the officers, you know, and so as we think about in the spring and the summer, there should be a presence in our neighborhoods, but also there should be an effort, a conscious effort to engage the community, and having the dogs is a great way of doing that. And I do not believe that it's the militarization of our city.
Wasn't there a council meeting where people were expressing concerns about we're arming up the city? Or something?
I mean, a lot of it is really the attitude of the officer. I mean, I think we have wonderful leadership in Commissioner Haas and many of his
deputies,
and if the officers care about the community, then it'll show.
Actually, another thing related to the police department is whenever the Cambridge Bicycle Committee, in both the spring and the fall, they have a ride. It's usually sort of goes around the perimeter of the city, or sometimes it's thematic or whatever. And we always have a big contingent of the police officers on the bikes, and they are so much fun to be with. Really decent folks. And it's sometimes we also sort of get like kind of unofficially deputized to become traffic officers to sort of get everybody through, because we'll have like 200 people on bikes, a lot of little kids and everybody.
Well, we're going to start our Saturday morning rides very soon with the Birds Fitness program, and Commissioner Haas sometimes in his offices. So we meet at our wife, and we ride our bikes on the Minuteman Trail. Sometimes we go to Walden Pond. Walden Pond's a much longer ride, and so and then we come back through Waltham. So it's about 50 miles, but it's a great opportunity to meet other residents in our city, and have great conversations on the way up. So
that's a mayor's
get some
initiative?
exercise. Yes, that was actually former Councilor Mayor Reeves. The Men's Health Alliance, and it was part of the Hoops for Health and Brothers Fitness program, which was led by the late Henry Lewis.
Henry was really the main person behind the bike rides. Yeah. And he would grab you out of bed if need be to get you out there.
That's right. He was great at that.
He was a great guy.
So he's we miss him a whole lot.
We did a memorial ride for him actually about a month or so after he passed away unexpectedly. It was a terrible thing. One of the things I was sort of about to ask, I might as well ask right now, was you said something was kind of interesting. When last night it was a very big controversial, I don't know if it needed to be controversial or not, but it was having to do with notions about planning, large-scale planning for the city. Some people call it master plans. I've heard it called other things, which is basically sort of kickstarting some sort of renewed planning efforts. And the situation was that there what appeared to be, depending on one's point of view, competing orders from 3 city councilors saying one thing and then other 3 city councilors saying another thing. And
about the master plan. Yeah,
about one thing where basically the distinction was one proposal called for city council committees to sort of shepherd a process of planning. The other one went for more traditional. I thought the better point involved this community development department. But the interesting thing, I think it was you said it or someone else said, that part of the reason why these things came in as totally separate matters was because of some of the difficulties associated with the open meeting law.
Right.
And the inability of councilors to just speak to each other and collaborate. And I wonder whether you might say a little more about that.
Well, I welcomed the debate yesterday over both of these policy orders. You can't talk to more than 3 other councilors around any given order, and so that was an issue that was raised by several attendees during public comment, and many of them mentioned that we should have gotten together and we should have merged both of these orders, but Mayor Maher had to explain that we would have been in violation of the open meeting law had we approached the process in that manner. And so, but I think having open debate is good. It's healthy. I think it leads to a better resolution. I think now at this point we are going to be looking to merge both policy orders. We have a Department of Community Development that's entrusted to do much of this work.
That's their job.
And we pay that department gets quite a bit of money from our budget to do this work. And if there's an issue of distrust and lack of faith in how the Community Development Department conducts its work, then we need to address that issue.
Build that trust.
And
Don't
build that trust,
Don't
absolutely.
circumvent it. Yeah.
And not politicize, the process. And I do understand that there's a lot of concern around development in the city because much of it has happened over the last 3 years, over the last 5, over the last 10 years, and we need to address these issues. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that if we're moving in the direction of a master plan, which I'm not opposed to, I think it's important to have a unified vision, that we also keep in mind that we lose families every day in our city, and that we need to build housing like right now, tomorrow. Let's put the shovels in the ground and let's start building.
Well, I mean, that's part of the existing plan already. It's just encourage housing growth, and so it's not like we're operating without a plan.
Right.
Right. So let's at least keep that part alive.
And
well.
we may have to, we're probably going to hold a number of hearings on the ordinance committee to look at zoning, particularly in Center Square, because I really want to get some of these projects up and running in Center Square. And we've got to look at housing for our senior population, and also for our families that are middle income families. So we've got a lot of challenges ahead, and we're looking forward to to working with this group of councilors to address these issues and meet these challenges.
Yeah.
What's the next step on the master plan issue?
The next step is we tabled both policy orders yesterday. So my hope is that through the leadership of Mayor Maher, we'll be able to merge both policy orders and take a vote at the next council meeting, which I think it's the 28th of the month.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to have to wind down. We're down to our last 15 seconds.
We really appreciate you being on the show.
Well,
I
no,
hope you come back again.
I will. Maybe I'll.
People like hearing from you. This is really good news that you're on the
Thank you.
council.
And so, until next time, this has been another exciting issue of Cambridge Inside
Out.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Appreciate
it's
it.
we're
Thank
thrilled